It's no secret that we live in a unique period in history where we have more media to consume than ever before. I'm afraid we're consuming so much that we're forgetting to create, losing a key part of what it means to be human. I'm Trevor Drudge, a teacher and music video producer, and I'm here today to talk about creating versus consuming. I first started thinking about this topic with regards to music. We have unprecedented access to music, combining streaming services like Spotify and YouTube with mobile devices, wireless earbuds, and speakers. We can be listening to music pretty well every hour of the day. We can create our own highly curated playlists of our favorite artists for every single mood or occasion we might encounter. Music for wake up, music for workouts, music for worship, music for wind down. We have it all. But I'm afraid that we are actually singing less because of it. Well, I don't have hard data on this, and I suppose every subculture within the population varies. My observations of a variety of Mennonite communities suggest that the increased consumption of music has not had a corresponding increase in creation of music, but instead a corresponding decrease. Put another way, we're listening to music instead of singing. Which brings up an interesting case study. There are some specific groups of Mennonites that don't allow any recorded music whatsoever. Again, it's hard to really quantify this, but my observation is that these groups seem to sing more than communities that consume vast quantities of recorded music. If these groups that don't listen to recorded music want music, they have to make it themselves. And because humans love music, they do make it themselves. I know there are exceptions to this, and perhaps your observations are vastly different than mine. I'd love to hear your observations on whether your community is singing less than it once did. And if you're looking for an opportunity to sing with a group, I have some choir and virtual choir projects that are coming down the pipe. You can check out the link in the description to sign up to be the first to hear about them when registration opens. But this issue of creating versus consuming is much broader than just the world of music. The same pattern shows up in other parts of life. Like, what about Bible study and devotional life? This is another area where we tend toward consuming instead of creating. We tend to rely heavily on devotional books and commentaries. We consume what others have created, get a bit of inspiration for the day, and then go on our way. How often are we actually creating? How often are we making our own connections, writing our own notes in our personal Bible study? More examples of how we consume instead of create include our fascination with going to restaurants and buying ready-made meals as opposed to making our own meals from scratch. High-end home kitchens sit empty. Well, a waiter brings us our meal from the commercial kitchen at the back of the restaurant. We listen to other people having conversations on podcasts instead of having the conversations ourselves. We watch movies, watch videos, read books, look at pictures, and scan blogs. We consume. So is this good or bad? Does it matter that we sing less and listen to more music? Does it matter that we read devotional books instead of writing our own thoughts? Does it matter that we eat at restaurants instead of cooking our own meals? Does it matter that we consume, but rarely create? I think it does. God is a creator. He created humans in His image. He created us to create. At creation, He didn't make the whole world a garden for a reason. Instead, He made a small garden, put some humans in it, and tasked them with continuing the project of spreading Eden to the whole world, the project that God Himself had started. It is in humans' very nature to be creators. But can we create without consuming? I don't think we can, or at least not very well. We have to consume at some level to be able to create. It's difficult to sing if you have never heard a song before. It's hard to write a book if you've never read one before. Creation doesn't happen in a vacuum. What we consume provides the raw materials for what we create. Our brains take these influences, remix them, and generate something new. So I don't think either creating or consuming is inherently good or bad. Part of the interconnectedness of the world is consuming what others have created. But I do think that the Western world is off balance towards consuming. So if you're stuck in the pit of consumption without creation, how do you get out? First, if what you consume is the raw material for what you create, then be intentional about what you consume. If you're consuming cat videos on TikTok, don't expect to be inspired to create an epic film. If you're consuming fail videos on YouTube, don't expect to be inspired to create a philosophical treatise. If you're eating hot dogs from a hot dog truck, don't expect to be inspired to cook an elaborate 7-course meal. Be intentional about what you consume. If you are intentionally consuming content, inspiring content, be that books, music, videos, or anything else, you now have the raw materials in order to create. The next step is to copy. Copy what others have done. An aspiring painter will copy another artist's painting before she creates her own. A cook will follow the recipe before he makes his own recipe. Now, the line between copying and creating can be a little blurry. Is singing someone else's song just copying, or is it creating? You could probably make a case both ways. You could think of consuming as an input and creating as some sort of output. So in that way, singing someone else's song is still an output and could be considered creating. Regardless, if you copy for any length of time, you will soon find that you have actually escaped the pit of consumption and have started to truly create. I believe this is where we discover a component of what it means to be human. It's easier to consume, but it's more fulfilling to create. When we sing a worship song instead of listen to a worship song, our worship becomes real. And if we write our own worship song, it goes up yet another level. When we pray a prayer of devotion instead of reading our devotional book, our devotion becomes real. We are who God made us to be when we start creating. So maybe it's time to hit pause on Spotify and go sing a song, to cancel that reservation at Texas Roadhouse and go cook a meal, to close that devotional book and go write some of your own notes. So pause this video and go out and create something.